Smith, LeBron James leave Jaylen Brown open. Well, I mean, they got within 25 feet of him. Brown hit 7 uncontested shots in the game, finished with 23 points. In the third, while the Celtics were coming back down 5 here, there you go, Marcus Morris. You get 20 feet lead time, you should be all right to hit that. Boston, again, rolling. Later, Celtics up 4. Kevin Love, LeBron. There's Terry. You know, if you get tired of watching them, you could always go ahead and guard them. 24 feet is a lot of space. Rozier, 14 points in the third. Mark Jackson, Jeff Van Gundy on the Cavs defense. Lack of it.
Give the Celtics a lot of credit. They have turned it up. The Cavs defense has been absolutely awful.
You got to rotate. You can't just stand in the lane and hope someone misses. This isn't a back-to-back. This isn't a back-to-back in 2 different cities.
So Van Gundy would probably not giving that a thumbs up for the effort. Effort's the key to success. That's what Don Ruskowski said. First time the Cavs have scored fewer than 100 points, I believe, there. 107-94 down in the series 0-2. Overall, the Celtics took 42 uncontested shots, including 19 open three-pointers. Cavs had a total of 11 open looks. Same number of open shots that Jaylen Brown took all by himself. We added all up together. Boston outscored the Cavs 50-13 on those uncontested shots in Game 2.
We find Stephen A. Smith in the, I'm sure, presidential suite in his swanky hotel room in Houston, Texas, as he gets ready for Game 2 of the Western Conference Final between the Rockets and the Warriors. Listen, we're going to do the LeBron thing in a second. You have to be in love with what the Boston Celtics are doing right now.
Well, you can't help but be that way because they play together. They trust one another. They play very unselfishly. They're devoid of egos in a proper sense of the word. They don't back down. They're a bunch of rough riders on this squad. Jaylen Brown's been telling me since last summer they wanted LeBron. They wanted Cleveland. They weren't scared of him. They thought they'd be able to take him. And you watch this game unfold. You had Jason Tatum and Marcus Morris play relatively pedestrian games, 11 points apiece. But your backcourt outscores Cleveland's starting backcourt of J.R. Smith and George Hill, 41-3. I mean, it was the kind of putrid performance by Cleveland's backcourt that makes you wonder why they're getting a check. And then when you look at the team's lack of defensive effort, where you see these wide-open shots being registered by the Boston Celtics, and it gave you every indication that collectively they just gave up. Cleveland gave up in the second half. They weren't a team. They were a collection of individuals.
Those are hard charges. In that last sentence, I heard you say he gave up twice. And with Van Pelt, I heard you say quit, that 4-letter word in pro sports. Yeah. That's a hard charge against LeBron James and the Cavs.
Well, Steve, let me ask you this question. How long have you known me, and when do I stutter? No, I said what I meant, and I meant what I said.
And how do you think Cleveland will respond then as they get home?
Well, I think that Boston has struggled on the road throughout the playoffs. One would suspect that the Cleveland Cavaliers will win this game. They've got the greatest player in the world. LeBron James is going to bring his game because I sincerely doubt he wants to get swept in any series, and I don't think he's going to let that happen. So I anticipate that Cleveland will answer the call and respond in Game 3. But my response to that would be they had better do so, because if not, they may end up. It's going to be an embarrassment of riches, because you look at the Boston Celtics without a Gordon Hayward, without a Kyrie Irving, who are both due back next year. You're doing this to the Cleveland Cavaliers, and then there will be no guessing games whatsoever as to what LeBron James is going to do this summer. He will definitely depart from Cleveland, because why would he stay there just to watch somebody else get their shine in the NBA Finals? He's not going to want to be a part about that. We know he's a mercenary to some degree, and he's going to be looking to go elsewhere where he can position himself to compete for championships, and that certainly is not going to be in Cleveland. We'll see what the Cleveland Cavaliers are made of, but they look like straight garbage tonight in the second half, and we all know it. So why stutter about it? Why hesitate? Why deny it? It happens to be factual.
Thanks, Stephen A. We'll see you in the morning on First Take and then post-game on SportsCenter.
Thanks a lot, buddy.
Sports Center on the road.
Difference in this game. First quarter, we told you about LeBron James at 21, but Jaylen Brown didn't let it get away from him. Uses the pick from Aaron Baines, knocks down the three, and Brown letting the crowd know about it. He had 14 in the first quarter to help the Celtics keep pace, keep it manageable. 23, 7 rebounds and 3 assists for the game. Jason Tatum gets the finger roll to go on Larry Nance Jr. Tatum, 11 points on 5 for 12 shooting. The shots are evenly distributed between their starting five, and then Baines and Smart off the bench. Terry Rozier got it going in the third quarter. He's going to leak out here and wind up with a flush at the other end. Rozier, 18 points, including 14 in the third quarter. All 5 starters in double figures for Boston, including Rozier, Tatum, and Brown. And then there's Marcus Smart off the bench, who just does a little bit of everything. Al Horford puts up the 3, and Smart just keeps it alive. Jason Tatum misses, but there's Smart putting it back in. 11 points, 9 assists, 4 steals for him. And then later, Al Horford fouled hard by J.R. Smith. And Smart coming to his teammate's defense after the foul. Smith assessed a flagrant foul. Smart would have to be restrained as he walked back to the bench. So lots to talk about before Game 3 Saturday in Cleveland. The Celtics going to take Game 2, 2-0. Celtics, they take Game 2 to go up 2-0, outworking and outscoring Cleveland in the second half. They outscored them by 20 points in the second half. Difference in shot quality, a big reason why. 36 of Cleveland's 39 shots after halftime, an astounding 92% were contested. Cavaliers, meanwhile, contested only 58% of Boston's second half shots. For more on Game 2 between the Cavaliers and Celtics, Stephen A. Smith joins us now. So, Steve, just 39 second half points for the Cavaliers. How much of that was Cleveland's ineffectiveness on offense, and how much of that was Boston's turning up the defense?
Well, I'm going to give credit to Boston's defense. They amped it up. They got all up in Cleveland's behind. They chased them off the three-point line. We know all of that. But where the alarming element of the Cleveland Cavaliers really comes in the fold was their defensive tenacity or flagrant lack thereof. There were a lot of open layups that they gave up. There was a cheap shot by J.R. Smith. There's nobody that can deny that. You can't push Al Horford in the back the way that he did. And you know, when you look at them defensively, they just didn't seem on the same page. Jeff Van Gundy came up to me with the line of the year. He talked about how there's more eye rolling on the Cleveland Cavaliers than couples in a bad marriage. That's what he said, and it was absolutely hilarious and absolutely accurate. When things go awry, they disband, they fragment, and that's what I think you saw tonight against the Boston Celtics. And against Boston, that's the worst thing that you can do, because if nothing else, Brad Stevens has them being an absolute together unit. They spread the floor, they share the basketball, they sacrifice for one another, they play together. And that's not something we saw from the Cleveland Cavaliers in the second half, which is why they're down 2-0 in this series, and they are in a must-win situation for Game 3.
All right, so Boston's been great all postseason at home. They haven't lost at home. What kind of effect do you think the change of scenery could have on this series? Or is this just something that's not going to be corrected that easily?
Oh, the potential is there for the series to shift dramatically, because the Boston Celtics don't appear to be the same team on the road that they've been at TD Bank Garden throughout this postseason. Against Milwaukee, to a lesser degree against the Philadelphia 76ers, they don't appear to be themselves. They clearly amp it up to an extraordinary level whenever they're on their home court. But now they have to go into LeBron's house in Cleveland. It could be the last few games of LeBron James' career in Cleveland. A matter of fact, I would label that likely. And so when you take that into consideration, you certainly don't want to go out stinking up the joint and bum rushed and beat down on your own home turf. I suspect that the Cleveland Cavaliers will respond to the challenge. I think they've got a really good chance of evening up this series, but obviously we're at a point where we simply cannot sleep on the Boston Celtics right now. They're young, they're vibrant, they're fearless. They don't give a damn about LeBron James and the rest of the crew. They want them. Jaylen Brown has been telling me for a year they wanted them bad, and he has played like it. And oh, by the way, the backcourt for the Cleveland Cavaliers, J.R. Smith and George Hill, were outscored by Jaylen Brown and Terry Rozier, Boston starting backcourt, 41-3. That is just absolutely positively embarrassing. The kind of performance that J.R. Smith and George Hill should be absolutely positively ashamed of. They are better than this. They know it. But they showed up and gave you absolutely nothing. And they contributed to the level of depression that appeared to kick in with the Cleveland Cavaliers in the second half. Because when you see guys in your starting backcourt that anemic, it will zap the life out of you. And that's what it seemed to do to the Cleveland Cavaliers in the second half. Plus, it would have helped if LeBron James, despite the triple-double, elected to take his 260-plus pound body inside instead of shooting a bunch of fall-away jumpers.
Yeah, a lot of outside shots for Cleveland when that offense
Too many.
Just didn't make it happen
many.
in the second half. Steve, as always, we appreciate it, my man.
No doubt. Take it easy, man.
Well, you know what happened in game one.
Yeah.
The Warriors got all up in the Rockets behind. These teams have met in the playoffs in 3 of the last 4 years, with the Warriors winning in 5 games in each of the previous 2 instances. Golden State took a 2-0 lead each time, but the difference this time around is games 1 and 2 are in Houston. Mark Schwartz on line 2.
When I asked Klay Thompson if a road win has taken the pressure off the Warriors, he gave me an emphatic no. He don't think like that because that's a trap. There's still a lot of pressure on us, Klay said, because they're only 2 games from having home court again. Steph Curry agreed. We can't afford to get comfortable. We need to get greedy instead. Think only about the next 48 minutes with the expectation to come out of Houston with 2 wins.
After game 1, there seemed to be some disagreements amongst the Rockets about their style of play against these Warriors. Mike D'Antoni said it was vital for him to remind his team that their style of basketball is what got them here, stating, "Perception isn't reality, reality is in the numbers." And those numbers state that Houston excels in isolation basketball. And Eric Gordon did say that iso ball isn't going to cut it against this team. It's clear that Houston is still trying to get on the same page heading into game 2.